your heart, but we better dance it out. You ever see them dance it out? This morning, victory is in your praise. Did you hear that this morning? I'm asking you just to hear it one more time, because the victory is in your praise. This morning, we're going to dance it out. going to be participation morning. Talk along, talk back, whatever you want to call it morning. If you got a sheet this morning, I'd like for you to pull it out. I do have some cheat sheets with the answers if you fail to get them. There's some folks on that side. Yes. Over here. Teenagers, children, everybody can participate in this. I think that's it. So let me just start by saying I was recently sent a link of a TED Talk from one of my alumni sisters. She's a successful businesswoman, single mother, too, with a great life. Her TED Talk was entitled, Falling Asleep at the Wheel of Life. Being curious, I watched her TED Talk and it resonated with me, thus this sermon. You know, people wonder where you get your sermon material from. Well, it comes from everywhere. It comes from your life experiences. It comes from every day. It comes from paying attention to the small things and the big things in life. So this sister talks about having a regular mammogram checkup, only to get a call back from her doctor that says she needs to get another mammogram. She had an inconclusive mammogram. How many of us have had one before? I've had to have 2 or 3 of them sometime. She goes to work, calls and schedules another appointment and follows up and has another mammogram. As she drives to work the following week, the doctor calls her in for a consultation. She's like, this can't be good. She receives the news that she has stage 2 breast cancer. Then she then says she listens to the doctor and returns back to work. That evening, she goes to a Justin Bieber concert with her friends and her daughters. She researches her options on the internet and determines her course of action. She will have surgery and chemotherapy. She's gone to Let's Dish. She's made all her meals up in advance. She's prepared her family and friends for the ordeal that she plans to get to go into. And she says, I just want to keep it moving. She says to herself, I can do this. I don't plan to skip a beat. I'm going to beat cancer and I'm going to lick this thing. So 1 month later, she has her surgery and she wakes up to the news that they found a rare cancer in her ducts. That will require a more aggressive treatment. She says, okay, let's do this. She researches her options. She schedules her more aggressive chemotherapy and she just keeps it moving. She's much sicker than she thought she would be. She loses her hair, her energy, she loses her hair, her energy, and her sanity at times. One day she arrives home from work, greets her daughters, and walks into the kitchen only to find water on the floor. The dishwasher had malfunctioned. This was the last straw. She couldn't take life anymore. She gets her daughters and she says, let's get in the truck. So they get in the truck and she says, girls, let's go for manicures and pedicures. And they drive down the street. She misses a red light and runs into an intersection and crashes into another car. She doesn't know what happened. Everybody survives. But when the police arrives on the scene, he says, well, how did this happen? What happened? And she said, well, the only way I can explain it is I guess I must have been asleep. And the girl said, no, you were, Mommy. You were awake. And she said, I must have been asleep in my life. You see, cancer didn't wake her up. She just was going to keep it moving. But that car crash woke her up. She realized that she was asleep at the wheel of her life. She was not present with herself or others. Even when the cancer didn't wake her up, it took a car crash to say, hey, wait a minute, let me pay attention to what is happening in my life at this very moment. Turn with me, or you can look on your sheets, to 1 Thessalonians 5, the Message version. It's on your sheet. I chose this version because I think it's really clear and plain what Paul is trying to say to the congregation. He says, I don't think, friends, that I need to deal with the question of when all this is going to happen. They were questioning Paul about when was Christ going to return. You know as well as I that the date of the Master's coming can't be posted on our calendars. He won't call ahead and make an appointment any more than a burglar would. About the time everybody's walking around complacently, congratulating each other, we sure got it made, now we can take it easy. Suddenly everything will fall apart. It's going to come as sudden and as inescapable as birth pains to a pregnant woman. But friends, you're not in the dark. So how could you be taken off guard by any of this? You're sons of the light, daughters of the day. We live under wide open skies and know where we stand. So let's not sleepwalk through life like others. Let's keep our eyes open and be smart. People sleep at night and get drunk at night, but not us. Since we're creatures of the day, let's act like it. Walk out into the daylight sober, dressed up in faith, love, and the hope of salvation. This morning I want to talk about being asleep at the wheel. When I lived in Connecticut, I had a boss, a beloved boss that I had for many years. And he had a way of saying things. He was Italian, and he just had these interesting sayings. Some of them I can repeat, some of them I can't repeat. But one of the sayings he would say all the time was when we go in his office and say, you know what, our project has gone askew. We've had a problem. Our project is over budget or whatever. He would look at us and he'd sit back and roll his chair back and say, somebody went to sleep at the switch, didn't they? Well, I didn't know what that meant. I was a younger person, and I was like, I don't know what that means. How many of you all have heard that? Somebody went to sleep at the switch. So we didn't have smartphones and Googles then, because you know I've been working a long time. That was 30 plus years ago. We didn't have smartphones and Google, so I went to the idiom dictionary to look up where did that idiom come from. And I found out that it originated from railroad workers back in the mid-19th century. It was a switchman's duty to accurately switch the trains to change their tracks at an exact time. If the switchman fell asleep at the time of switching trains, the train might crash or go off the track. Nowadays, when somebody does not pay attention and show carelessness when he or she is supposed to stay alert, this idiom is used for such a situation. Perhaps you are more familiar with the term, asleep at the wheel. If you say that someone is asleep at the wheel, you mean they are not sufficiently attentive, especially at a critical moment when vigilance is required. As this phrase is used figuratively, it means that someone has either neglected some aspect of his or her life or failed to recognize threats or warning signs that could produce an adverse effect. The literal meaning of the phrase refers to drivers losing consciousness while driving a vehicle, something that is extremely dangerous and indicates poor judgment. Anybody ever fell asleep or kind of dozed off just a little bit? I mean, it doesn't take but a second for you to doze off and wake up, and you may find yourself in a ditch, in a ravine, or wherever you may find yourself. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration estimates that 100,000 police-reported crashes are a direct result of driver fatigue. These figures may be the tip of the iceberg, since currently it is difficult to attribute crashes to drowsiness. Driving drowsy is a growing problem in the United States, and the risk, danger, and often tragic outcomes of drowsy driving are sobering. According to a survey, 9 of 10 police officers reported stopping a driver who they believed to have been drunk, but they were actually sleeping. Further data indicates 80,000 individuals fall asleep at the wheel each day, and there are more than 250,000 sleep-related motor vehicle accidents each year. It is estimated that 20% of all serious transportation injuries are a result of sleep. So as you can see, this effects of falling to sleep at the wheel can be life-threatening. So I have a little story to tell you about my husband and Caleb. Last year, around this time, early May, they were driving home from Mississippi. My husband had been to a workshop all week in Cincinnati, and Caleb had been in finals and writing papers all week. You know what happens when you're in a finals week. You don't get much sleep. You don't get much rest. And you're a little stressed because you're trying to pull things together, pack to go home, worry if you got a summer job, looking for some money, some coins, so you can buy that last t-shirt on sale at the bookstore before you get out of town. So you can rep your school properly when you get home that summer. So I'm sure that's what Caleb was doing that last day, on that Friday. Pastor Paul missed his flight from Cincinnati. He was going to meet Caleb in Jackson. And he missed his flight, and he ended up sleeping all night in the Chicago airport and flying out at around 5 a.m. to Jackson, Mississippi that morning. Caleb had to play for graduation, and then he had to pack his room up. He had to drop his stuff off at a house in Vicksburg for storage, and then he had to drive another hour to Jackson. He didn't arrive in Jackson until maybe 5 or 6 o'clock that evening, after a full day, after Pastor Paul spending the night in the Chicago airport. Needless to say, neither one of them had sufficient rest for the journey. But, as men usually do, they thought they had superpowers. I think my husband said, "Caleb, are you okay?" He said, "Oh, Dad, I can make it." And he said, "Dad, are you okay?" "Oh, yeah, I can make it." They get halfway out of Jackson down the road, and Caleb falls asleep at the wheel. My husband wakes up just in the nick of time, thank you, Jesus, because see, they were both asleep at the wheel. The passenger was asleep, who was supposed to be watching the driver, and the driver went to sleep, so they were all asleep in the car. So, my husband wakes up just in time, and I guess he says, "Caleb." And Caleb kind of wakes up out of his slumber, but they're on the other side of the road. But thanks be to God, that even when we go to sleep at the wheel, they made it home safely. Some of us go to sleep at the wheel, don't we? It's real. We all think we can do things, and we think life is going along just fine until we crash. The Apostle Paul is constantly exhorting churches to wake up in his day. He tells the Roman congregation, the hour has come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is now than it was when we first believed. He charges the Corinthians to awake unto righteousness. In our text today, he exhorts the Thessalonians, let us not be like others who are asleep, but let us be alert. He tells the Ephesian church, wake up, O sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine upon you. All these references tell us one thing, that it is possible for a true believer in Jesus to become a sleeping Christian, and a real gospel-based church to fall asleep. The prophets and apostles, our Lord himself, all charge our conscience with the message. When the state falls upon a congregation or upon an individual, we cannot say that it is because of God. You see, it is possible for us to sleepwalk through life, appearing awake fine, but actually we are not alert and vigilant at all to our life's possibilities. This type of sleep will eventually result in a crash. New creation, it's time to wake up. Can you turn to your neighbor and say, "Neighbor, it's time to wake up"? Now let's all act like Spike Lee at the end of school days when he rang the bell, and what did he say? Wake up! That's right. You see, for the sister in the TED Talk, keeping it moving was a coping mechanism. How many of us are using coping mechanisms to avoid waking up to our real lives and taking responsibility? Some of us just get real busy. That's our coping mechanism, because we don't really want to wake up to our real lives. Today I declare and decree to you that it is time to wake up. It is time for you to pay attention to your life. What are you missing? Are you prepared for the Lord's return, or will the Lord catch you off guard when he comes back for his church? Are you aware of God's activity in your life and the life of your church and those around you? The Bible tells us we need to be vigilant in our lives. So what does vigilant mean? So glad you asked. From the most ancient of times, vigilia, or vigilance, is a sacred word. The ideal of vigilance implies several things. It implies that there is something priceless useless enough to watch over. It implies that the one keeping watch over it must perform some constant duty to keep watch over that thing. Vigilance implies that there is an enemy that you have to be vigilant against. The question for us is whether we feel deeply enough about our faith to be vigilant about it. Is our faith so sacred to us that it makes us feel watchful, like a watchful soldier, a concerned parent, or a waiting lover? 1 Thessalonians 5:6 says, "So let's not sleepwalk through life like others. Let's keep our eyes open and be smart." You see, when we are sleepwalking, we're disoriented. Most of the times when we fall asleep at the wheel, the driver wakes up disoriented and overreacts and overcorrects the situation. We lose perspective and control. We start to believe our dreams and illusions and act as though they are our reality. We find ourselves in situations we never intended to be in. However, when we sleep, we fail to protect ourselves. Anybody remember that old song, "How Did I Get Here? How did you get here? Nobody's supposed to be here." She went to sleep. Our faith is precious. It is the most precious thing we have. So why do we constantly fall asleep on our lives and on our faith? Most of the time it's because we have become complacent. It is most easy to fall asleep when things seem to be going well in our lives. I know y'all thinking that it's easier to fall asleep at some other times, but when things are going well in our lives, that's when we tend to fall asleep. If you can pay your bills, you have a nice home, you eat well, you have a good job, and you got some friends and family, you are subject to be lulled into a false sense of security. So you live life with a casual faith. You give God what is left over of your life and time. You make plans for yourself without ever consulting God. You've gone on cruise control in your life. You may be the type of people who only post or tweet like a thermometer, only telling and repeating facts that are either obvious or braggadocious. You are asleep, my friend. If you cannot express an original thought or something you feel passionate about or something you want to share as food for thought, you are no more than a parrot. I am a user and a believer in social media. It has its place, but all too often I read posts of people who, from all indications, are asleep to themselves. We also tend to fall asleep when it is well with our spiritual lives. Now this one kind of surprised me because, we think if we're paying attention to our spiritual lives, some of us got check marks. Did I go to church Sunday? Check. Did I go to Bible study on Wednesday? Check. Did I show up at Sunday school? Check. Did I answer the phone when I saw Pastor Paul on the caller ID? Check. Those are the kind of things we check off. And we think, because I'm doing these things, I must be all right. I got it all together, don't I, baby? Then Murphy's Law shows up. Show out to get you. Yes, it is. So when we think we have it all together, that's when we really don't. And we're talking loud, we're saying and producing nothing. We're just looking like Christians, but we ain't really being Christians. The other time we fall asleep is when we retire or we get towards our senior years. We may be tempted to retire from the church and from our relationship with God. In other words, we go to sleep. The Bible gives us many examples of this. And in the Bible, by the way, few young people fall into gross sin. The scripture is full of warnings of mature believers sleeping. So it ain't the babies in Christ that's sleeping. It's the mature, full-grown believers that go to sleep. Lot was not a young man when he got drunk. That's right. Abraham was not a young man when he lied. Jacob was not a young man when he tricked his brother. David was not a young man when he slept with Bathsheba, which was not his wife. Peter was not a young man when he denied the Lord. And Demas was not a young man when he forsake Paul and fell in love with the world. Surely at some point they all went to sleep. Perhaps you think you have spiritual goods laid up for many years and now you are taking your rest. You have done your share of labor. The time has come for you to rest and take it easy. I am sure, glad, God does not sleep or retire on us. If he did, where would I be? where would you be? What gave you the idea you were supposed to retire from church? A Christian never retires. We continue our work in the kingdom until it is complete. And it is only complete when we are reunited with Jesus, until we see Jesus. So you see, there's no retirement plan or 401k in the kingdom of God. He expects us to work forever. I know that's not good news to some of y'all, but in some aspects of your life, you will work until the day you die. Perhaps you are in a busy season of life, raising children. You have an important job. You are caregiving. You're going through an illness, etc. This does not earn you vacation time in the kingdom, nor does it earn you PTO or even a mental health day. So yes, there are times when a Christian may sleep, when our outward circumstances are most pleasant, when all appears to go well in our spiritual lives, and when we think we are approaching the end of a milestone or approaching a new milestone in life. So what does spiritual sleep look like? This is where you take out your pens and you can begin to fill in your blanks. What does spiritual sleep look like? First of all, I missed that. I said, why do we fall asleep? Complacent sleep. When things are going what? Well. In our lives. When things are going well. In our spiritual lives. When we experience transitions, retirement of work. So what does spiritual sleep look like? The world goes on, but they don't know anything about it. A sleeping Christian is aware of what is happening around, is unaware of what is happening around them. They are unaware. The world goes on, but they don't know nothing about it. A burglar might break into your house and take your money, laptop, and jewelry. There's a fire across the street. Your neighbor's house is burning down. Men are shouting out the window for help. But you are asleep. You can't do anything to help them. People are sick in the house, crying for someone to bring them medicine, calling for a doctor. They are shouting, but you are asleep and you hear nothing. People may die, but you will not weep. But you will not weep for them because you are asleep. A revolution is taking place in the city, but you display no feelings because you're asleep. Winds are howling, thunder is rolling, but you're asleep and you could care less what's happening outside. You're asleep. There once was a blacksmith who bought a puppy. He chained up the puppy in his office. When he began to hammer the horseshoe and bend it into shape, the dog barked, yelped, and pulled the chain in terror. The old blacksmith ignored the dog. You return 3 months later to the blacksmith's office, and the smith is still hammering away at his anvil. But the dog has grown so accustomed to the noise and the fire and the sparks that he sleeps through it all. So it is with you. You hear the warnings of Christ out of darkness. You express regret, put your offering in the plate, but your heart isn't in it. You are unaware. What else does a Christian look like when they're sleeping? An obsession with illusions. Everyone has a dream that's so real it wakes you up, you begin to act like it actually happens. Has anybody ever had a dream that was so real? I remember one time I had a dream that was so real I hit Paul upside the head when I woke up. I was so mad. I remember one time I smashed my fist into a wall because the dream was so real and I was so angry that I felt it was like it was reality. Well, that happens when Christians are asleep. You know, we start reading our own press releases. We start believing our own illusions. When we sleep, common sense goes out the window, and fantasy holds a party in our heads. Anybody had a party held in your head all by yourself? When we sleep, dreams come and fill our heads with strange worlds. All sorts of things deceive us. We are married to different people. We're living in a different age and stage. We look better than we do in real life. When we sleep, we skinny. When we sleep, we can wear baby suits, two-piece baby suits. When we sleep, we're living in a world of unreality and fantasy. It's not real life. There once was a story told of a lady that lived alone in a big house. She went to bed one night and she heard somebody rustling and rambling through the door. And she goes, who is that? She wasn't expecting anybody. So, the story is told that she got a pistol out the side of her nightstand. And she decided she was going to creep down, and on the way she called 911. So she's creeping down the stairs to see what's happening, because she knows somebody is in her house. Well, she peeps around the corner into the kitchen, and this man is rambling in her freezer. This is a true story. A man is rambling in her freezer. So she's like, I don't know whether to shoot this fool or just to ask him what he's doing. He pulls out the frozen cookie dough, and he proceeds to sit at the table and eat the cookie dough. So he's just sitting there eating it. Well, the police show up in the meantime and come, and they ask the man, sir, what are you doing here? And he said, well, isn't this my aunt's house? I didn't think she'd mind if I came and ate her cookie dough. The woman had left her back door open, and the man was sleepwalking. He had been on Ambien. And he had sleepwalked into a house that he thought was his aunt's, 2 doors down, and he's sitting in the kitchen eating cookie dough. That's what sleepwalking will do. It'll make you believe that something that is not yours is yours. You know what's wrong with us is we're living in a dream world. We're trying to run away from the reality of where God has put us with these delusions. We are seeking to escape from our own sleepy Christian life by make-believe. Face up to reality, to yourself, and to this life which is flying by quickly, and you must give an account. God has put you here in this space, in this place. It may be a day of small things. It's not that nothing is happening, so don't despise it. You just need to stop here on a Wednesday night to hear the discussion of the faithful wrestle with the scriptures. I bet you none of y'all know what we're talking about in Bible study on Wednesdays for the last couple of weeks. The discussions have been hot. We have been having a really good discussions on what makes a church. What makes a church good? What makes a church welcoming? How do we make disciples of each other? I think all of us have had some epiphanies on Wednesday nights. If you think nothing's happening, you should have stopped by yesterday at 8:30 when we had discipleship training. We learned an eye-opening thing. What it means to die to ourselves, to give up our rights, and to take on Christ's rights. What it means to die to ourselves. And one of the things I walked away from that discussion with was, I haven't always died to myself. Things offend me so easily, or I get mad at you, or I get upset and get my underwear in a bunch over things. I haven't died to myself. It's still about me. But what I've learned is that as I learn to die to myself, I can avoid a lot of silly, stupid stuff in my life. I can avoid being mad at you and being mad at others, having conflicts, because I know it's not about me, but it's about Christ. So if you think nothing's going on, you just need to stop by at some of those times other than Sunday morning. You see, you will never have another 2016 to work for Jesus. You may not have another day or year to work for Jesus, but you certainly will not get this year back. Yes, we're going to make mistakes with each other. We're going to make mistakes with each other when we attempt to serve. We're going to say the wrong thing to each other. We're going to rub somebody the wrong way. But you know what? When we die to ourselves, we understand that, this person is a work in progress just like I am. Let me just say a prayer, release them, bless them, and keep it moving. Not as a coping mechanism, but as a way to surrender to Christ and die to ourselves. Wake up, new creation. This is where God has put you. This is where God has put me. Them and us, old and young. There is nobody else here. So the sooner you all start to pull your weight, the rest of us can take some rest and get a little stronger in the process. We are the members we have been waiting for. You know how everybody says, oh, I wish the church would grow. Well, it is growing. It's waiting on you to grow. We are the members that God has been waiting for. We're already here. So wake up and do your share. You will find that you are not so perfect either. You will make mistakes, and hopefully someone will come alongside you and say, it's okay. I understand that you're a work in progress too. The other thing about being asleep is insecurity. A sleeper cannot defend themselves. There was once a prince who was a strongly armed man. He entered a tent weary and worn, ate some food, and laid down on the floor. He was fast asleep when the woman of the house crept upon him with a hammer in one hand and a big nail in the other. If you were awake, great warrior, you could smash. She took the hammer in one hand and a big nail in the other, and she smashed it into the brain of his head. If you were awake, great warrior, you could have smashed this woman to the ground with one blow of your fist. But you are now helpless because you are asleep. That woman's name was Jael. She put the nail against his ear and lifted up that hammer and drove it right into his brain. It pierces Sisera's brain, and he dies because when he sleeps, he is defenseless. His banner has flown in victory over many of his enemies, but now he is marred by what? A woman. The man who, when he was awake, made nations tremble, dies by the hand of a feeble woman because he fell asleep. Sleeping people are always in danger. You can't defend yourself when you're asleep. If you're sleeping, then you're in danger today. Inactivity. Can you go to work if you sleep? Can you feed your kids if you sleep? Answer me. Can you feed your kids if you sleep? Is this the state of some of you all? How many of us are doing nothing? Once you worked for the Lord, but now, or perhaps you never fully committed to serve the Lord or your church. Maybe you have given up on all of your activities. Churches go to sleep too, you know. It's not just the preacher who is on duty that has gone to sleep, but the pews go to sleep too. Look at the numbers attending Bible study. Where's our spirit of prayer? Where's our life of devotion? In most churches, it's extinct. How many folks who claim they are Christians are asleep or inactive? That's right. People are screaming for help right here in the pews. In our community, our children and young people are dying at the hands of guns daily. We show up for church when we are free from other obligations or when we feel like it, while the world goes to hell. We are inactive. So I'm glad you might ask, how do we wake up? How do we wake up? What does it look like when we wake up? So, what does spiritual sleep look like? What's the first thing? You're unaware. What's the second thing? Obsession with illusions. What's the third thing? And fourth? Inactivity. If you find yourself in any of those words, you might be asleep. So how do we wake up from our spiritual slumber? The first thing we do is guard against complacency in our lives. Make some goals and stick with them. Have you ever, I guess I had gotten so complacent or so lost in my life. One day I woke up and I was 300 pounds. For real. I can show you the picture. One day I woke up, I was 300 pounds. I don't know where the pounds came from. I don't know how they got there. But one day I just woke up and they were all there. I was asleep in my life. I don't know how it happened. But we need to make some goals and stick with them. Or we'll wake up and find ourselves places that we never intended or expected to be. Start with some small goals. You know, we all like to make these lofty goals. We put them on Facebook. We tweet about them. We talk about what we ain't going to do no more, what we are going to do, and all of that. And then 15 minutes pass and we doing it again. We don't even let a day go before we crash on our goals. I'm challenging you this morning to make just one goal and stick with it. I did that on February 1st, my birthday. I made a goal. My family laughed because for years I had a membership to LA Fitness, and I wouldn't let my husband cancel it. He was like, I'm paying this money, you ain't woke up yet and gone to no exercise. I'm like, don't cancel it, one day I'm going to go. So on February 1st of this year, 2016, I said to my family at dinner, at dinner on January 31st, at my birthday dinner, I said, I'm going to start working out. Everybody was like, yeah, you're right. That morning, February 1st, was my birthday, 5 o'clock. Paul got up, I got up with him, found me some exercise clothes. They was looking tough, but I found something to put on, and I limped my way to LA Fitness and got on that bike. And I could only do 15 minutes on that bike. I mean, every day, ever since February 1st, I've been getting up at 5 o'clock. It starts with a small goal. It starts with a desire. My desire was that my health is too precious. My health and my well-being is too precious to wake up one day and not be able to recover from an illness because I'm out of shape. So I got up at 5 o'clock. Am I an early morning person? No. Do I like getting up? No. Do I like exercise? Hate it. But I know that it's the only way I'm going to see myself to a better, more fruitful life. So it starts with a goal, people. If you want to wake up from your life, think of that one thing that you need to do or stop doing and start today. Don't plan for it. Don't wait for it. Like I said, I hadn't laid out my exercise clothes. I hadn't even found my sneakers. It took me 15 minutes in the house to run around and find the right sneakers. But don't plan for it. Just do it, as Nike says. Just get up and do the thing that God has been telling you or that you know that you've been needing to do. That will wake you up. One of the things I found out about waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning is that my life has become so much richer. Because see, when I get back from the gym, it's just 6:30. I got a whole morning. I can sit and have tea with Paul while he makes my breakfast. And instead of him serving me in bed, I'm sitting at the kitchen table. I can read the paper. I can look at blogs. I can just mentally prepare myself, spend time with God, and just have so much more peace in my life because I made one decision. It was a small decision to some of you all. Y'all don't have no problem getting up, doing things. But I had a problem getting out of that bed. So for me, it was that. I don't know what it is for you, but if you need to wake up, set a goal for yourself. Set a goal. And you know what? You ain't all that you ain't got a goal that you couldn't lean toward.
That's right.
You are not all that. Perhaps the goal is to come to Bible study. I don't care if you just show up once a month. Perhaps that's your goal. Perhaps the goal is to come to Sunday school. Start with what you know you can do, but set a goal. Don't be satisfied with your spiritual life. Don't be satisfied with your spiritual life. There is always more you can do. We never arrive until we meet Christ. Ain't none of us in a place spiritually where we think we should be until we meet Christ. So there are no little I's and big I's and little U's and big U's in the body of Christ. We're all just trying to get to the same place, right? We're all just walking each other home. So don't be afraid. You start where you can. You do what you can do. But don't be satisfied with your spiritual life. Continue to pray. Remain consistent. Mix things up a bit. If you find yourself getting stale, get on a Facebook page with some sisters and read a book. There are many, many things that you can do to mix up and enhance your spiritual life. One of them is you come to church regularly. One of them is you can be on time. One of them is you come on Wednesdays. There are many, many options for you to find your way into a greater spiritual maturity. And then I want you to understand that you need to stay on the wall. Now there are some folks I'm going to call today because they are not on the wall. And I just need to let them know that they are not on the wall. There is no retirement plan, there is no PTO, or vacation hours earned in the kingdom. Can y'all say that with me? There is no retirement plan. There's no PTO. There's no vacation hours earned in the kingdom. So until you go home to be with the Lord, I don't care what has happened to you. The Lord expects for you to be on your post, for you to be awake. As your life transitions from childbearing years, raising children, empty nester, senior citizen, sickness and etc. There are no sit-down passes. I don't care if you have to limp like Gentle, limp like Lenny. I don't care whatever has happened to you. Get your butt in the church with the other believers. Make every effort to stay involved with the the people of God and the house of worship that God has placed you in. When you step away and start believing you can serve God alone, you have become delusional. God created the church for a purpose, so that we could encourage one another to keep each other awake. You ever been in a meeting and fell asleep and your co-worker hit you and said, hey, wake up. We have conference calls, and sometimes they're at night because we're with Global India. So sometimes we're talking to the client, it's the middle of the night, and if you don't put your phone on mute, I remember one night I was just snoring up in the place. I had put the phone down, I was snoring, somebody called my other phone and said, hey, is that you snoring? Wake up! That's what we do for each other. We wake each other up when we come to church. Turn to your neighbor and say, wake up, pinch him. Get me up. When you are sitting by yourself, when you are alone, you don't have the ability to keep yourself awake. That's why God created the church. So we can pinch each other, so we can poke each other and say, wake up. That's right. New creation, wake up. Let's not sleep like others. Some of you may remember, now I'm going to tell y'all to pinch people hard. This was supposed to be an assault activity. How many of you all are familiar with the bubonic plague? How many of y'all remember the bubonic plague? You studied it in school. Some of you may have heard about the Great Plague that erupted in London in 1665 and 1666, when the city sounded with one big cry day and night. Bring out your dead! Bring out your dead! Bring out your dead! A handbell was rung, and a long barrel would pause outside of houses which had a door with a white cross painted on it because someone in that house had died of bubonic plague. So they would push this cart along the street to collect the corpses. And they would ring a handbell and they'd say, bring out your dead! Bring out your dead! And the barrel would pause and people would bring the corpses out of their house. You see, the bubonic plague was killing people left and right. There were no children playing in the streets at that time. Many of the houses were locked and empty because everybody had died. Grass grew in the streets. The only sound was the bell and the clip-clop of the horses which pulled the cart on which the white shrouded corpses were piled. Bring out your dead! Bring out your dead! You see that house over there? A doctor lives over there. He's a great man of skill. And a little while ago, while working in his laboratory, he discovered the cure for the plague. He's got the disease himself, but one day he drank down the compound, and soon his temperature returned to normal, and his headache had gone. He had recovered completely. This man, with the prescription to heal the whole city, to put away the dead man's cart and bail for good, is sleeping. He is asleep. He had been so busy searching for a cure, he needs to take it easy for a while. But he's got the cure, and there's children in the streets who he knows are dying. Mothers are weeping and praying, but he is snoring. He has been cured, but he's too lazy to go out and tell folks the remedy. You might say, what kind of monster is that? What kind of person is that? I see such persons here today. That person is you. That person is me. Our community is sick with sin, y'all. And you and I have been cured with the remedy which has been provided, the blood of Jesus Christ. And yet we are asleep. We don't go out and tell others what a wonderful Savior we found and about the saving power of God. Our community is perishing with worse than the bubonic plague, and we choose to put the covers over our head and snore. The death bell is ringing in North Minneapolis. I don't know how many of you all have been paying attention to the news. But you know, when we're asleep, we hear these things, but we just get dressed and go on to work and don't worry about it. But lately, when I hear another person has been shot by gunfire, another person was found dead on the street, my heart has begun to cry out. My thoughts go to my son who lives in North Minneapolis, or other people that I know that occupy this area. And I think, oh my God, a bullet has no name. But for the grace of God, it could be any of us that are shot shot with that bullet. Hell is crying out in North Minneapolis, right here in the community where our church is, howling with hunger for the souls of our people. Bring out the sinner. Bring out the sinner. Put him here in the mouth of hell. Let him die and be damned. And here we are professing to be Christians and doing nothing, which might make us God's instrument in saving souls. Wake up, O sleeper, and rise from the dead. If you are sleeping, wake up. See the world around you. You never know when God is going to make a move, and the worst thing that could happen is that move is made without you or me. If you are sleeping or sleepy, I charge you to take precautions quickly before you fall asleep at the wheel. That is a dangerous place for any of us. Don't wait until you crash into life to wake up to it. It may be too late. Wake up today, this very hour, this very minute. Your life, this church, our community, our world are depending on you. We're not looking for nobody else. We have everything we need in the house. We have everything. If you need healing, it's in the house. If you need deliverance today, it's in the house. If you need a financial blessing, it's in the house. Everything that you need is where? In the house. So wake up today. This very hour, this very minute. We are looking for you. We depend on you. This is not an option or a suggestion. As musicians play softly, I'm going to ask you to take a moment with your notes. And there's two commitments I'm asking you to make today. You know how I talked about starting small with my goal of going to LA Fitness? Like I said, it might not be a big deal to some of y'all, but for me it was a big freaking deal to get up and go. What is it that you need to do? One small thing for yourself. This week I will wake up in my life by doing what? This week I will wake up in my life by doing what? You see, a sermon is no good if you don't take it out of here and give it some thought and put it to work. So this week, what are you going to wake up in your life and do? It doesn't have to be a large thing. It can be something very small. But what are you going to wake up in your life and do? Then secondly, this week, I will wake up in my church life by doing what? Now, if you need some suggestions, I'm sure Pastor Paul can give you some suggestions on waking up in your church life. Maybe it's this week I'm going to find out what they're talking about at 6:30 on Wednesdays where the conversation is so lively. Maybe it's I'm going to go to Sunday school on Sunday. Maybe it's I'm going to reach out and call another Christian and just pray with them. Maybe I'm going to reach out to somebody and say, let's just have coffee so I can talk about my spiritual life. What is it that you're going to do this week that advances the church and that advances yourself? Just one thing. I want everybody today to walk out of here, make a commitment to yourself. Because you see, commitments change things. When you care enough to do something different, that's when your life begins to change. And when I say change, I mean radical change. I'm not talking about no little stuff. I'm talking radical change. You want to be in a different place in your life? Start by making one step. There's one song that said, if you make one step, God will make two. Sometimes he'll make 3 or 4 on your behalf. All he has to have is a willing spirit. So this morning, I'm not opening the doors of the church. I'm not calling people down. I'm asking you to make your commitment right here between you and God. Everybody. There's something that all of us can do this week. And you know what? I do want to come back next week. I do want Pastor Paul to say, what is it that you committed to it? Does anybody have a testimony about what happened this week in the 7 days that you made that commitment? Because I believe there are going to be some radical testimonies in this church next Sunday. I don't usually say things like that, but I'm believing God that some of you all have been touched today and that some of you all are going to make some radical moves this week. It might not seem radical to others, but it's going to be radical for you. And that you're going to come back and live to tell it what God